I just got done finished watching Disney's Descendants, the new decom that just premiered. I wanted to make a little review about it. So, where should we start? Breaking this down. Let's break this down. From the beginning, there's no continuation in what world it is. Okay, Aragon. Where is this? I've never heard of this, of fairy tales. Now, I know it's an adaptation, and I know it was just created this year, but this is Disney, and you have all these fairy tales from all over the place that were based in Europe from the 1400s and earlier on. They didn't have Wi-Fi, they didn't have computers, they didn't have cell phones, they didn't have television, they didn't have any of this. And the baseline says this is 20 years after the Prince and Princess Beauty and the Beast get married. Now, that took place in France in, I believe, the 1700s. My main problem with it is where this movie is supposed to take place. The time period. Why, if it's like even a fantasy world, like, let me bring up Once Upon a Time really fast, because you have the Blue Fairy in this film who plays Belle, and she's not Belle. She's the Blue Fairy, and she does well as the Blue Fairy, and I can't see her as Belle. That's personal opinion. So in Once Upon a Time, they do it really well, and yes, I know, it's an adult show compared to a kid's musical, but the case is still here. Once Upon a Time has the Enchanted Forest, where all the fairy tales were in medieval times beforehand. They didn't have anything electronic wise, and they teleport into present day. Now it makes sense for them to be surrounded by cell phones and computers, and even then they don't use it that much, because when they teleported into the 80s, because that's when Emma Swan was born. They do an excellent job with stating what time period they're in and what their surroundings are around them. Now, let's go back to the Descendants. It's stated that they banished all these villains to the Isle of the Lost once Belle and the Beast got married. Now, like I said, if we're going with time periods and when the story was created, it was mid-century 1700 France. Why is there mention of Wi-Fi? Why is there mention of this modern day high school with no magic? Why are there computers? Why are there television? And also, first couple lines of the movie, Mel's character narrates saying that there's no Wi-Fi on the island. How are the villains talking to the kids? How did they get a computer? Did they send it to them? They had no contact. Nothing makes sense. Now I know I go a little bit deep into the critiquing because I pride myself in being a filmmaker, a historically accurate filmmaker. So these things really bother me. But it's these questions that I have. Simple questions that should make sense. And I know they're trying to make it hip and cool for all the kids watching, but nothing works if you have things from all of these different time periods and it's not supposed to be clicking together. Like, you have steampunk. Steampunk is something that works where it's the past and the future. Clicks really well. Just one example. But like, this is just a mash of places and items that don't go together. You're not gonna go into the forest and give Gaston a cell phone. I mean, if you did, he would go on Tinder and just like everyone that liked him. First thing I think of. Kind of funny. But you're not gonna go, like, the whole point is that they're fairy tales and they're fantasy. So it's very hard to do so in present day because they weren't made in present day, and that's what makes them fairy tales, because of fantasy. They have dragons, they have magic, they have castles, which we don't have magic or dragons. I know we have castles, but you get it. You have Beauty and the Beast, who are the main characters of the story, which already is kind of weird, because if we are starting with Disney, Disney was first Sleeping Beauty and Snow White and Cinderella as the original characters, and Beauty and the Beast was such a modern tale. Was in 91? 91. Yes. I'm very historically correct, try to be. And so that's interesting right there. Right from the beginning of the movie, the fact that they're 20 years older and they were 28. So historically inaccurate. I know it's a fairy tale, but still. Belle is supposed to be younger, correct? The Beast was supposed to find his true love before his 21st birthday. So why did they wait 7 years to get married? And how is this in their 40s? And there's so many things wrong. The Beast doesn't look like the Beast. In fact, no one looks like their characters. The casting, I don't know what they did, what they were looking for. The kids look like the fairy tale characters, true. But all of the fairy tale characters don't look like the traditional fairy tale characters at all. There's this thing going on that they're obviously going for diversity. And yes, this is an important thing, but if you're trying to base on something, diversity shouldn't matter. And the message is a very good message about finding your own destiny, not having to follow in footsteps. But here's the huge thing that's wrong with it. This was all done 2 years ago with Ever After High. Now, that's from Mattel, and it was a toy line, in case you guys don't know about it, that was created after Monster High, where it was all the fairy tale characters, children going to high school. Now, I know about this just because of where I worked. They advertised it, big deal, and we got to listen to it and research it there, so I'm very familiar with it then. But that's just a side note. So, comparing this movie to Ever After High, which actually is extremely well done. It's a cartoon, it's animated, and there's lots of web series about, like, it's a web series, and they have so many different cartoons and different stories intertwined. Like, you have Little Red Riding Hood's daughter and the Prince Charming, and he has a brother, and it's so good. Like, that's done really well. So if you want to see a fairy tale about the prince's children and the villain's children, go watch Ever After High. Don't watch the Descendants. Now, the kids, that's another problem. They're supposed to be 16. They acted like they were 7. They were very mature. Now, I get that they're supposed to be on an island where they don't know how to behave, but you think you have that natural tendency to grow up and to have that maturity age range to be a little bit older instead of the way they acted. It was very out of place. Another thing very out of place was the music. Now, the songs were decent. The choreography was really good. Kenny Ortega, that's a talent he has, and he does it really well. But you can tell it's Kenny Ortega because these moves were pulled from Newsies, they were pulled from High School Musical. There was very High School Musical moments in there, same with Newsies, same with everything he's done. Now, he did Hocus Pocus. Hocus Pocus was awesome. It's one, if not the best Halloween movies ever. But I digress. So, you have the opening number, which is Rotten to the Core, which the song itself was pretty decent. I know they're trying to hit the urban crowd, and the choreography was really cool, very Thriller-esque. I really enjoyed that. But them acting and going around, running around, taking pipes and hitting them against walls, because that's what 16-year-old kids do, and running around stealing stuff, it didn't make sense. Them in the limo obsessing over candy. I mean, I get it, they might have not had candy in this island and they might have been deprived by a lot of things, but they weren't acting their age at all. Another problem was the random breaking out into songs. Now, I'm a huge fan of musicals, and I've grown up with them from like MGM, old musicals of like the 50s, to like the current ones like Rent, Chicago. Now, obviously, it's a whole different level. Like, those are Oscar nominated winners compared to this, which is just a Disney Channel movie. It's supposed to be fun, it's supposed to be kid friendly, positive messages, all that jazz, great messages, etc. But there's a way you put a song into a musical correctly. And they did not do that. Now, it was pretty bad the entire time watching it. There's a lot of moments that I was cringing, asking why is this happening? What's going on here? Why are they doing this? But towards the end, it got really good. There was some twists in here which I didn't expect and then clicked, and I don't want to totally spoil it, but they did a good job towards the ending. I'll give them that. It was a really cute movie overall, but the majority of it was cringeworthy. Can we just take a moment to bring up Be Our Guest? I think that has to be the most cringe-worthy moment in the entire film. We need a moment of silence for the killing of Be Our Guest. Okay. A little bit better. Let's bring up some of the positives, because there were some positives in this. One, Kristen Chenoweth is my queen. She is amazing. She's perfection. Anything she does, she kills it. She was amazing through and through. Probably the best thing about the movie. Kathy Najimy was also really good, but it was a very small part for her, and all the villains were very small. But they were some of the best parts about it. Dove Cameron is also a very talented actor, whatever you want to use. She was really good too. She is so talented, she can sing. She and Kristen worked so well together and they were a great duo, so that casting wise was really well done. Good, cute movie, but very poorly executed with the cast they had, and they should have did better writing, and it could have went better. Wasn't bad, wasn't amazing. That's my review. I will give it 4.5 out of 10 apples. And we'll see what happens with the future, because there should make a second one. As always, have a magical day, and I will see you soon.